Hey everyone, it's your favorite ink slinger, just the Mister today, no Mrs. But she will be coming. She will be joining us again. Don't worry. It was a fun episode to film, and I've already gotten more ideas, and I think she likes them. And even if she doesn't, she's gonna do it anyways. No, just, no. I think she had fun too, and I've heard a lot of positive feedback. And I need someone like her to bounce off not just my ideas, but my craziness. So, on today's episode, titled The Inkubator, INK, see what I did there? Anyways, I'm going to be talking about my source, right? Like, where do I go? Have I, right? As a writer, as a creative, I think everyone has to make a space whether it's your full-time job or not. I think you have to dedicate something, right? Like any worker, right? If they're a driver, right? If they're a truck driver, they have a truck where they do their work. If they're an office worker, they have their station where they sit down, like, no, this is my computer, this is my desk. So you have to you kind of have to claim your territory, right? You have to be like, this is my spot. So that's the main thing that we're talking about today. Again, the first thing will be the progress, and then I'll leave you guys off with a inspirational quote that I can't help myself, but I have to rewrite, redraft, regurgitate, if you will, whatever works for you. All right, so this week's progress, it has been really good. This week's progress has been phenomenal. I feel like it took me 3 to 4 weeks to get through chapter 7. Why? I don't know. I think I was trying to set up. I think because that chapter technically, the time frame of that chapter, it encapsulates like a 21-day period. Again, you're not you're not reading about every single day, right? But I felt the need to establish one full day for the most part, right? Not all, not nitpicking, not all the stuff, not all the gritty, the nitty gritty, but I was like, I need them to know. I need the readers to know or to be aware of what it is that they're going to be going through for the next 3 weeks. And I felt if I didn't do a good enough job, like if I didn't delve deep enough, I think it would be missed, and then that whole chapter would just be a few pages that you read, right? It would just be something to get you from 6 to 8, and I didn't want it just to be like, I mean, every chapter is a bridge, right? It's getting you somewhere. But I didn't want it to be just like a like a really short bridge where you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, no, this is, again, and every chapter is the same, but I just felt like I needed to do it justice. I think that's why that one took me longer than I expected. Chapter 8, I think I'll be done with it this time next week, maybe sooner. I think, right? As you write, things come up and you're like, wait, I'm stuck now. I got to change this. So progress is good. The only, I don't know, I was going to say the only flip, but so on Monday, Monday through Friday is when I dedicate 2 hours and 24 minutes of my quiet time, which in that quiet time is my 51 minutes of writing time, right? So on Monday, I actually fell asleep. I forgot to change, because I had changed my alarms. I have a bunch of alarms. It's a hot mess. But they make sense to me and they help me. I forgot to change my alarms from what I had changed them to on Friday. So on Monday, instead of waking up at my regular 3 a.m., because I like to sleep in, instead of waking up at that time, I woke up almost at 6 a.m. So I didn't write. However, and because you're going to be like, but George, you just said you had a good week. I did, because on Saturday, I think I invested about an hour's worth of writing. So I actually wrote more on Saturday than I would have on Monday. And I thought I was going to write on Monday, but I'm kind of glad that mix up happened, because I think I needed that rest, because I was out and I hadn't felt that well rested in a long time. So it was really nice. And sometimes you just got to rest. Sometimes you just got to let your mind relax. It's funny because your mind never stops, but sometimes your mind just puts out a lot of nonsense, right? And that's not what I want on the pages, right? I mean, I want a little nonsense, I want a little comic relief, right? Because I feel it makes the reading more enjoyable. I mean, yes, it's a serious, what the team is a very serious team, and what they're facing is very serious, right? I mean, I don't think it's a joke. First of all, not even special for just anyone in the military, right? So it's not, it's not like that. But these are people, and they have senses of humor, and they have their own quirk. I mean, we're all quirky, right? Some people display it more than others, right? And I want that to come out in the novel, right? I want you to get to know each and every character. Maybe not the way I know them, because I know it's funny, because as I write things that I know and I've seen, people reading them, because they're in a different place and they don't know the people and they don't know the circumstances, and they don't like, there's a bunch of intangibles behind what you see and do when you write it. Someone might write it differently, but that's cool, because then that becomes a whole nother story and a whole nother world to that person. And to me, I would be fascinated to know what other readers think. Like, how did they read this character? Like, oh no, this person is really flamboyant. Or like, I didn't have time for that. You know what I mean? Like, and to me, it might just be like, I just thought they were being silly, right? So, and it's fascinating, because again, every mind thinks differently. All right, so let's talk about the incubator. So, the incubator it is my walk-in closet in my bedroom, right? It's essentially a 5 by 5, right? 5 feet by 5 feet size. I might be a few inches here or there, but that's essentially the size of it, 5 by 5. So I get up at 3 a.m, right? So the first hour and 33 minutes I dedicate to being in there. And I don't know why, I don't know why I picked those specific times. Like I wish I could give you my formula. I mean, I'm giving you the formula, but I can't give you the reasoning behind it, right? I mean, well, I guess here's the reasoning for the 51 minutes. So in my mind, I thought, okay, so I'm going from my closet, where I'm reading and spending quiet time, in my Bible, before God and all that. I'm going from that, and then I'm going to my computer, right? They're basically the furthest points from one another, right? So I was like, okay, by the time I get out of there, I get out of the closet. By the time I put my books away, I put the closet as I found it. By the time I get to the computer, I turn it on, I power it on, if you will, and I have everything working, and I for the most part, I'll leave everything ready on the computer. All I have to do is turn it on. But sometimes things happen, right? Like, hey, you gotta reboot, or something's not working. So I said to myself, well, let me give myself like a 6 minute cushion, right? That way I can get those 45 minutes in. And again, even when everything works out perfectly, I don't always write the 45 minutes. Sometimes I write way, way less, because I'm doing research, right? Because I'm trying to figure out, well, they're stationed in this part of Germany, or they're here in Zealand, or they're traveling, in the Tigris River. Like, again, it doesn't have to be precise. It's a novel, and I can write whatever I want. I can make it all up and make up rivers, but I really wanted to tie it down to something real, right? And I was like, why not? The world that we live in is such a beautiful and fascinating canvas. Why not just use that canvas and throw your drawing on there, right? Throw whatever ink or whatever it is whatever creative art that's within you, just splatter that all over the place and see what comes out. So that's my incubator. I gave you my time, the 51 minutes that I used to write. This is Monday through Friday. On the weekends, I don't really write. Sometimes I'm really inspired and I can't help myself. And I prefer to have those weekends more often than not, because I feel that really helps me progress with the writing. Again, like this Saturday, I think before the Saturday, I probably felt like I was either a third or a quarter of the way through chapter 8. Now I feel like I'm almost towards the end. And this is me missing Monday, right? I wrote today's Tuesday. And so it just, I feel like it puts me on another level. And again, on some weekends, it's hard, because, you have family and friends that you want to see. You have appointments, you just have other things in life that you have to do, right? And sometimes you just want to spend time with your spouse, and that's okay too. All right. So in the incubator, when I'm in there, right, for an hour and 33. Now, I don't do just one thing that entire hour and 33 minutes, right? I read some of my Devos. This Devo was found in one of my old jobs 6, 7 years ago. And the gentleman that found it, he said, "Here, George, I'm giving this to you because someone left it. And I know," he said, "I know that you're a Christian." He didn't say, "I know you're the only," he said, "I know that you're a Christian." Maybe I think I had a few other friends there that were Christian, but I'm probably a little more outspoken, right? Without chucking Bibles at people's heads, because that never works for anyone. All right. So I read about 5 minutes of this devotional is like 5 to 7 minutes. Maybe the longest will be 10 minutes, and that's if they have like 2 full pages of things that you're reading. After that, I read from the Bible, of course. Sometimes I'll be listening to a pastor and they'll give you a plan. If not, I just like to read the Bible from beginning to end, right? From Genesis to Revelation and in order. I've just discovered that there's a chronological plan. So I started that last year, but I didn't finish it. So I started reading it again from A to B, right? As it is written, as it's been laid out for us. But I think once I'm done reading it like that, I think I'm going to do the chronological and maybe give more thought to the historical events and like really think about the chronology, like what was happening. You know what I mean? Like yes, the Bible's for all of us. I understand, but it also had a really specific message to a very specific and particular people in a really tight, time frame. You know what I mean? And I think if we don't take all that into account, I think we miss a lot of nuances, and I think it's really more to our detriment. Does that mean you can't read the Bible and just don't? No, you can. Please don't. I hope that wasn't me dissuading anyone from reading. Read it. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. Okay. Another thing that I'm reading is Every Man a Warrior, right? So I probably started this almost the same time that I started the podcast. So every time I've been going into my quiet time in the mornings, I'm either reading, I'm studying, or I'm writing, depending on, because this workbook that they give you, it goes by week, and every week, there's a different thing you got to learn, and there's a different thing you have to explain, and there's questions and stuff like it's pretty cool actually. I really enjoy it, so highly recommend this if you just want to go deeper, especially as a man of God. If you want to go deeper with God's word, really recommend it. Now you're probably thinking, man, if all that's inspiring you is the Bible, and it can be, it's not a bad thing, but I am a voracious reader. I love to read, period, right? So another book that's actually inspired me a lot is by Bo Weiss, right? He was a former Marine, and he had a brother, Special Forces, and a brother that was not only was he a SEAL, he was a CIA, and both of his brothers they gave their lives in duty to our nation, and they've both been honored, right? Ben and Jeremy Weiss, and then I believe this is Bo Weiss right here, this gentleman right here. Great book. I do have the link in the novel because I mentioned it in the novel. I thought it was only fitting. But I'll put a link to the Amazon in the YouTube, so in the description. So if you guys want to read it, highly recommend it. Another book that I picked up, and I've used a few things, is this one called The Challenge Culture, this has nothing to do with the Bible. It has nothing to do with the military. It's as far away from both of those things. Yeah, but sometimes you just you get in. Sometimes it's a sentence, sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a thought, sometimes there's something else that inspires you. And then sometimes I'll be listening to like I've actually I'll be writing, like let's say I'm on chapter 3 and I'm listening to Moody Radio in the mornings. They have their talk radio between 5 and 9 a.m. And sometimes they say something and I'm like, man, that would sound really good in the novel. Like maybe this person should say it, or maybe that's a really good description of so-and-so. So that's that. Another thing, so I did show you my Bible. It's the NIV. However, for the actual book itself, probably 95%, and I mean that's a pretty specific number. 90% and above, right? For sure, for sure. And I'll probably go back and do the numbers because I myself am interested to know how much. 95% or 90% of the Bible or more is actually from this Bible. So this Bible I bought, it's called the New Jerusalem Bible. I'm flipping the page so I can show you the inside of it because I have it in my Bible cover. The New Jerusalem Bible. I believe this was a Bible made by French theologians. And it's really cool because it gives you like a lot of the Hebrew words. It's like theology and Hebraic scholars came together, right? So this was my first. I think I found out about my first study Bible. I think I Googled it, and I think I purchased it on Amazon because I've never seen the New Jerusalem Bible in any bookstore, right? Whether it's a mom and pop place, whether it's a Barnes and Noble. I've even in the airports because or any bookstore that I've been to, I've seen a bunch of Bibles, NIV, ESV, the New American Standard, or there's like 3 or 4 that you see all the time, and there's so many more translations that you don't see that you probably need to buy at a either and I've never seen it at a Christian bookstore too, the New Jerusalem Bible, and the Christian bookstores are cool because if you're looking for all the different translations, that's usually if you want to see them physically, right? If you want to see what they feel like, if you want to open it and read some of it before you purchase it, because they have they usually have a greater array of those translations. It's a great place to go. And I've gone to about 3 or 4 Christian bookstores, two in the city, and I want to say 2 in the suburbs. And I've never seen the New Jerusalem Bible. And I'm not going to buy it again. I already own it. But I was just curious, like, does anyone carry it? And how do people find out about it? Again, I think it's a great Bible. But I read a bunch of the translations, right? I have the King James Version. I have the NIV in Spanish and English. I have 2 different versions in Spanish. I don't remember what one is called, but my first one, which was given to me when I was like 12 or 13, is La Reina Valera, which I think is the Spanish translation to the King James Version, right? So I don't know. I don't want to say that the language is rudimentary. Is it more archaic? I don't know if that's the right word. It's a little more blunt, right? And sometimes you need blunt, right? A little. Sometimes, especially as a man, sometimes you need a little blunt force trauma to get you moving. All right, so that's my source of inspiration. That's my time. That's my breakdown. That's where I go. And again, that's just my source. And like you can have your own source, and you can even like verbatim copy my source. And I promise you, you're gonna come up with your own inspiration and your own story. It'll be phenomenal. So please, whatever you do, if you have an idea, write it out, and if it's about writing, write. If it's anything else, do that, right? Do whatever you can with where you're at, right? You're probably looking at me and you're like, man, you have all this equipment. You have a microphone. I do not. I don't have a microphone. You probably have a fancy stand. I don't. I bought my stand at Aldi's for $5 and I can't even adjust it. And it's sitting on top of 3 books, 2 of which are 2 massive Bibles in between a devotional. It's just so I feel I get the right height, right? So just write or just create, just do what you got to do. And then before I leave you, I want to give you my rewrite of a quote, which says, never apologize, never retreat, never explain. Get the book published and let them pour over, peruse, and devour it. And then let them complain about it or howl about it or criticize or whatever they're going to do. So with that, rightfully yours, this has been George Paredes. Thanks again for joining me, guys. Have a good night.